And I'll start asking the questions that everybody had.
Bring them on.
Do it.
So,
Game time.
game time, exactly. I'm scrolling back to the first question was from Matt, and it's a two-parter, and he was curious, with the surplus of so many talented cinematographers these days, what are the things that catch your eye and attention for new clients?
You want to go or you want me to go?
Go ahead, ladies first.
Thank you. It's a good question. I think it depends on the day. So, and it's going to depend on what I'm looking for. So I work with another agent in our department. And so she and I collaborate quite a bit on what we want our roster to look like. That being said, she doesn't tell me that I can or can't sign someone and vice versa, but that does come into consideration. So I think it's really about where we feel the business is going, right? So for a little bit, she and I were really focusing on signing these young non-union DPs because there was like a huge surplus of those types of jobs, and it was really hard to get some of the bigger DPs to take the lower rate for some of those jobs. So we kind of started to focus on that. But it really depends on the market. And it also depends on like where the gaps are on the roster. So sometimes, for me, I would really love to sign a DP that has some sheet metal because I could really use that. And for Marie, she could use someone that has probably like some more music videos, like a younger DP. So I think it just depends on the day, and timing is a big part of it for me personally. Holland.
Yeah, a lot of what Pattie said kind of rings true for me as well. There's no real formula to who I'm looking for on any given day. Well, let me start back. Not any given day. Essentially, when I'm looking to sign somebody new and bring them into the roster, I'm going to assess where I'm at with the people I currently represent, and if I feel like they're being serviced and they're kind of progressing at the level and the pace that we've discussed, that I'm comfortable with, that the client's comfortable with. And when I get to a point where I'm starting to see work come through that I don't have the available depth in my roster to fulfill, maybe somebody's kind of moved beyond that project at that point, or if it's an automotive job per se, I've got 5 automotive guys, they're all booked up. I don't have somebody to service the client that's coming to me. I'm going to start looking at the people I've been talking to over the last 3, 4, 5, 6 months that have automotive work and see if there's availability within my bandwidth to bring them on and to shuffle those opportunities over to them so that I can keep the work with the agency. They're going to book somebody in town. If they're not going to book them with me, I'd like them to be with a client that I represent, that I can help further develop their career. So it's a lot about filling the gaps, like Pattie says, and that kind of changes throughout the course of the year. People that stand out to me, it might be that I saw something on Instagram. It might be that I saw something on Vimeo. Right now, we've got the festival going on for Cyclope. I take a look and see who's out there being nominated, the work that they're doing on an international level, and see who are the people that don't have agents at the moment. Who are the people that have work that I think could cross over into this market? Why don't I reach out to them? For me to sign somebody, I have to know that I have something of value to bring to that relationship, that I'm not just signing somebody that has pre-existing relationships coming in the door and I'm going to manage and service those. Managing and servicing is great. It's part of being an agent, but really kind of going out there, developing relationships, helping that career move forward step by step, however it may be, at whatever pace it may happen, is kind of what makes me happy as an agent. So I don't know if that answers the question, but that's a little bit about my process.
I agree with Holland. Holland and I actually train at the same agency, so we're old friends. But it's very much about, for me as well, the development. And I did not answer the question about what catches my eye. And I do go to Instagram a lot, actually. So all you guys should have your Instagram pages looking top notch, and your websites. Like if your websites are okay, like if they're, Christina can vouch for this. Like I am a stickler about websites because you guys should think about it as your brand. Your website is your brand. Your Instagram page now is your brand. And you're sending people to that's your store, right? So if you think about it, if you're going to like you know, Nordstrom or J.C. Penney's, you're probably going to shop more at Nordstrom, right? Their brand is great. And that's how you guys should look at your websites and your Instagram pages. So I use those as well. And also I think the thing for me, the final box when I'm like, I want to sign that person, is how their work makes me feel. I'm less about focusing on the monetary value and more focused on the creative that they bring to the table. Because for me, it's like, if someone can make me feel something, then I know I can sell them. And that coupled with attitude, like if someone with a bit, like someone could be the most talented DP in the world, but if they have a giant ego, not interested. Those are kind of the things that we look for.
I mean, ultimately, we're hoping that these are relationships that flourish over a 20, 30-year period, you know? So you really want to be working with somebody that you feel a connection beyond the business aspect. Business is huge, of course, but we want to talk to you guys. It's going to be multiple times a week. You know, we want, when Saturday morning comes around and we're with our families and we're like, okay, we need a day off. Oh, you know, Nick's calling, Natalie's calling. Cool. I'd love to see what's up, just because we're friends beyond the business, you know? So the relationship that you have with an agent, ultimately, when you're signing with somebody, you want it to be with somebody that you feel you'd be happy to talk to on a daily basis in a genuine nature. You know, I think that's super important.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Sorry, I just kind of threw everyone in this. Natalie is, oh, now she's in the car. She was on the plane. So and Carson is also traveling. So I kind of took over for him. But yeah, thank you for doing this, you guys. On the other side, his second part of the question was, what are some of the common pitfalls that you notice with DPs that maybe that get signed too early and they're not ready for an agent? We've been talking about this a lot, and I was saying, you know, I reached out to Pattie so many times before she actually signed me, and we had a lot of conversations where she told me I wasn't ready yet, and I actually did end up going with another agency just to sign with an agency, and for a year I didn't book a job through them. And I, you know, looking back, I should have listened to Pattie, because I gave away 10% of my income for no reason, and they weren't able to get me other jobs. And then, you know, I ended up reaching back out to Pattie, and we connected a few years later. So
I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, any agent worth their weight in salt is going to be paying for themselves over and over and over throughout the year. You know, you come in with X amount of relationships. It's our job to kind of, first of all, we're not going to sign somebody. I'm not going to sign somebody. Pattie's not going to, because I know, unless we know that person's at the right place, where when we make that introduction to the people that we work with, they're gonna bite, they're gonna nibble, and we're gonna be able to take that in advance. Because if we sign somebody too early in their career, there's one shot to introduce you to the market, you know, and to the people that we know. And the way that you're introduced and the time that you're introduced is how they're going to remember you forever, you know, regardless of 5-7 years down the line. We've all been in this situation, you know, somebody goes out, there's a really incredible high level director that we're chomping at the bits to work with. They bring their low budget project along. See, this is a pitfall I had earlier in my career. I saw that as a great opportunity to make a relationship, make an introduction to a production company, to a director. In hindsight, it wasn't the right thing to do. You need to wait for the projects where you're able to kind of shine and bring your skill set and do an incredible job on a project, because you may go into that project, do a good job. What's going to happen? The next time that director has a high budget job, oh, so-and-so, no, they're good for my smaller budget jobs. And you're only going to get those calls, you know? So not in every case, but most of the time you got to kind of really be careful and make sure you're making the right decision at every step along the way. I kind of lost track of what the question was.
No, you answered it. You answered it.
Yeah. Oh, and some of the pitfalls. Yeah, you know, ultimately.
Too early.
What's that?
They said that they want to sign too early.
Yeah, but that's not a pitfall. You should want to sign early. You should want to have somebody in your team that's helping you kind of develop and opening doors for you and giving you guidance, you know, when jobs come up, and having your back to ask questions like, hey guys, like, okay, that's the rate, but what's your rate for equipment? What's the cruise rate looking like? Just so you're not taking a job on and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, what did I sign up for here? I don't even have the support. I don't even have the finances to get the right equipment to do what I want to do. So when you have the right agent and it's the right time, that person's going to have your back. So you should always be building relationships with agents across the board at all agencies, but don't be too eager to sign with somebody, like Christina said, just because you're chomping at the bits to get an agent. Focus on what you're doing, who you are, develop your craft, and just stay that line, you know, like keep your voice, keep developing it. And when the time comes, those agents that you've spoken to, they're going to come back around and they're going to remember that they had a conversation with you. And it's going to be like, okay, they've got the tools that I need to go out there and blow this open, you know, I'm going to come to you at that time. And that's those are my thoughts.
I agree with you. I think that the thing to take away from what Holland just said is that the first impression is a lasting impression. And when I'm giving my clients advice, a lot of times I use dating analogies because I think everybody can relate to that, which is like when you go out on a first date, you show up with, you know, you're in your best outfit, your hair is done, you know, your skin's clear, you're on point, you know, you're on your best behavior. It's the same concept when you're trying to find an agency to work with, because it is that whole idea of first impressions, a lasting impression. There are plenty of DPs, and Holland, I'm sure you could probably relate to this, which I think about, and I still hear them and they're booking stuff, and I still remember the first reel that they sent over. And that's the thing that's where my mind goes to, you know. So when you're not only doing outreach to agents, but also when you're doing outreach to directors, keep that in mind, because you want to make, and that's why I go back to the whole website, Instagram thing. You want to make sure everything is tight, like cleaned up and good to go. And like, even if you only have like 4 spots that are like really amazing spots, I'd say maybe that's a little lean, like 5 spots, you could still get away with doing that. But until you have, you know, 5 to 6 spots that are really strong, I wouldn't reach out to anybody, because the agent has to have something to sell you with, especially the first time around. And you know, there've been a couple clients and like, gosh, it's kind of, I don't know if I should really sign them. It's kind of taking a risk, but I believed in them so much that I took that risk, and I was able to clean up their website and have got a lot of people moving. And those ones paid off. And there's a handful that didn't, you know. So I think you just have to have something that the agent can sell you with. If you don't have anything that an agent can sell you with, then you shouldn't be reaching out to an agent for representation yet. And until you have enough that they can work with, then that's the time to reach out to them. And like Holland said, like, you know, when I see someone I'm interested in you know, for representation, I'm reaching out to them, you know. And so if I have the bandwidth to deal with it, but I think really just making sure that you have enough that someone can sell you with. And it's not just like in terms of volume, it's quality pieces.
Yeah.
I'll say, Pattie, though, it's a tough thing because I'm going to go backwards a little bit. I've signed people that have had 2 music videos and a short film, and their work just spoke to me at a level where I knew without a shadow of a doubt I could get on the phone and sell this person to somebody else, because I feel like I've got a particularly good eye and a strong eye. So if I'm seeing something in somebody's work and it's really speaking to me, I can convey that to somebody, you know. So it's like a little, you know, you got to play a little bit of a dance. You don't want to hold yourself back too much. You do a little bit of outreach, but don't be too pushy, you know. Like if you talk to an agent, you know, a lot of people ask us to look at their work, give them feedback and things like that, which I think is a fantastic thing to do. Pattie's probably going to feel the same way. I don't have the time to go through everybody's website that they send me. I'd love to, and I actually feel bad that I don't at times, and I'll file them and I'll go back and give constructive criticisms or just thoughts on how they could how they could lay the projects out on the reel, just to be kind of more visually gripping. And when I say visually gripping, like Pattie was saying about Instagram and the websites, here's what's going to happen. A director that wants to work with you that has never worked with you before, the first thing they're going to do is look up your profile online. Your social media page is going to come up. They're going to get within 2 seconds a sense of who you are as an artist from a very, very superficial perspective, you know. But I'm guilty of doing it. Somebody sends me the reel, I'll click on it within 2 seconds. I know if I'm looking deeper into that reel or not.
So,
You know,
honestly, because Holland and myself and other directors, and I would even put producers in this category, because we look at websites all day long, you can almost tell like within like very short period of time whether or not you can sell someone or whether or not you can like, you can't explain it. But that I totally agree with that. That's why the websites and Instagram have to be on point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you guys answered a lot of this, but the next question was, what would someone's game plan be to try and get an agent, and some things they should be trying to prepare for, which I think you guys really answered. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, but the last part of the question was, what are realistic expectations for the agent DP relationship?
Christina, you want to take that one?
I'll let you start it off.
Go for it, Pattie.
I think this is a tough question to answer because I've been told I baby people a lot, and that I spend a lot of time with my clients. But I think that Holland can probably relate, because I would say that we could probably label ourselves more as managers versus agents, because a manager develops the career versus the agent generally is someone that books, right? So yes, an agent is involved in booking and finding a DP jobs. I think for me, I tend to really get more involved with my clients and get to know them on a very, very personal level, because I personally have to, one, feel a connection with someone that I'm representing. And I have to feel like I can trust them, because I have to vouch for them that I can sell them with a producer or a director or whoever. And I have to know in my heart that that person's not going to show up on set and is going to be professional and responsible. And if something happens, that they're going to reach out to me and that they're going to communicate. I think that there is a little bit of walking a fine line, because with that, there's also a boundary that needs to be respected, right? So sometimes I'll get a text at 10 o'clock on like a Saturday night, like, hey, what's happening with that hold? And it's like, no. You could tell me about the date that went horribly bad, but you can't ask me about your hold at 10 p.m. on a Saturday night. Or you can, but I'm not going to want to talk about it. So there's a little bit of a fine line there. But to me, the relationship between a DP and an agent looks like very collaborative. It's a team effort. It should be an agent just sitting back and, receiving holds from only a DP's contacts. It should be a true collaborative effort to kind of build someone's career and to help them grow and to make cool stuff and to tell stories. And I see Mike Ray is showing his peace signs.
What's up, Mike?
I don't know what it looked like to me. Did I answer the question?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of just like management, having hard conversations. I think sometimes I have to have conversations with clients like, hey, you need to stay humble. And sometimes I know you want to push it on the rate, but sometimes it might benefit you to take a little bit of the hit on this rate for this one, because this job's going to lead to this many more jobs. And the $500 you lose over the whole course of the job, you're going to make it up, tenfold, because there's going to be a relationship in place. Or, hey, I know that's your buddy and you love this director. This creative sucks. Like, it's not going to help you. You've already done a million of these jobs for this director. Like, you really should not be doing this job. So it should be collaborative. It should be back and forth. You should be able to reach your agent. Now, we can't always be on call at the snap of a finger, but we should respond in a timely manner. That's what I think it looks like.
Yeah, and I'm going to agree. I mean, first off, it's a 50-50 relationship. You have to expect that we're out here looking for work for you, taking the opportunities that come across our plate, going after the opportunities that we may hear of that haven't come across our plate. And we have to understand and trust that you're out there building personal relationships, going out there on the jobs that you are on and doing the best you can, so that when we open the door and you walk through, you're continuing the other half of that relationship. So that door will stay open and come back again. And ultimately, I know when I work with a client that I can trust to put myself on the line for, to the furthest degree, when that person walks through, they're going to deliver for me. So I will continue to do that through and through. And that guy, that woman, whoever it may be, their career is going to do really well, because when I know that I have the confidence to put myself on the line for somebody because of the personal relationship I've built with a client and the trust I have in them, I can do my best work. So I really rely on all of you to go out and represent me while you're out there. I'm out here representing you on a daily basis with every conversation that I have with a producer, with a director, with whoever it may be. And a lot of the time, not a lot of times, sometimes that's in the middle of very difficult and tenuous situations, you know, but I need to know how to have those conversations, how to navigate those situations so that we all come out clean, you know. And part of being an agent, I enjoy that part of it. I love that part of it. I love figuring out the situations that could be difficult if they're not approached with the right tactics per se. Sometimes that's getting out of a relationship that's been long-standing for a client because we have another job coming along that fits with the path that we've been discussing, that we're looking to pursue to get that person to the next level. It's not easy to say you're not available to the director that helped establish your reel from a very early time, that's been there for you all of the time. On the other side, we see it often. A director that you may have worked with for years signs to a reputable production company, and all of a sudden, the DP's pushed to the side because their sales reps are looking to do the same thing that we're looking to do, elevate their career, get them with new people, and that hurts, you know? So my job is to lessen the pain in that kind of departure in that moment, I think, you know, and there's ways to do that.
I think our roles really are not just to book jobs and to find, but to help you guys grow as people. Like there's a lot of coaching as agents, you know.
Absolutely.
Like, oh, my boyfriend doesn't want me to do this job and and you know, like, and so you have to have that conversation, or like, or oh my gosh, this incredible opportunity came along and my girlfriend or wife really wants me to stay home with the kids. Like there's a lot of those conversations. It should be a friendship, and the DP agent relationship should be another relationship. It's not something you should jump into. It's something where the intention should be to spend a lot of time, because this person's going to help you carve out the path, like Holland said, of, you know, of your career. That's really what it should look like, you know.
And I mean, what you should also expect is, look, on a day-to-day basis, we've got a different perspective of the industry that you have from your isolated position, you know? So when we see jobs come through, say somebody's ready to book you, we can gauge the market and the temperature that's out there and the board flow that's been coming through and tell you, you know what, we may not have another job ready to book right now, but trust me, I think we should pass on this because I'm seeing other opportunities out there that I'd rather you be available for. The worst thing is taking a job and then having that call come in, or having that opportunity that I know I could go after, but I can't for a client. And one thing you don't want to do as an agent or as a cinematographer is back out of a commitment you've already made, because integrity, transparency, honesty, just being a good person, you know, that's what I'm all about, you know, and I want to work with people that are like-minded. What else can you expect from an agent, Pattie?
There's a lot of questions, so
yeah,
I don't know. I feel like you guys answered that one really well. One question is, how did you guys fall into being an agent?
I'll start with this one. So I'm Canadian. I'm from Toronto.
Wait, who did you assist for, Holland?
Yeah, I'll get there.
Sorry.
Anyways, so I grew up, you know, I went to school in Canada, started working on set. My first day was with this stills photographer on this show called Redemption, you know, assisting him. And it was, God, what the hell? Some major actor. Anyways, I ended up moving to the US because my mother's American. I've got dual citizenship. I couldn't get a job for the life of me, to be honest. You know, in my mind, I was like, you know what, I'll move out here. I'll fall in. I wanted to work in post-production. I'll go to LA. I'll get a job. 6 months, 8 months go by. Couldn't really get a job. Wasn't really working out. The Scorus agency was hiring looking for a receptionist. So I went in, interviewed, didn't get the job. 3 days later, they fired the person they hired, called me back to see if I was still available. Had that person not done whatever they did to get fired after 3 years, I probably would not be an agent, you know? So, I mean, my only goal at that time was to get inside of a company to see how far I could go within a company, because I didn't really want to freelance anymore. I'd only done it for a few years. I was pretty young at the time, but I was like, I knew that wasn't for me. So I got lucky. I became the receptionist. At the time, there were 2 other agents, one of which works with Pattie, Marie Perry, another one who's over at another agency who was running the department. Her name is Hillary McQuaid. I became Marie's assistant, got to know her clients, got to be in the middle of the fold a little bit and see what it was like talking to the artists that we represent, you know, and talking to the producers that come in before I handed the phone off to the agent. And I started to realize that I really liked the personalities that I was dealing with. I liked the people. And I loved when the treatments came across my desk that I could open them up, whether it be for a music video, a commercial, take a look at them, and then look at our roster and go, you know what, this is where I think the match is. I mean, brokering relationships, it just kind of, it excited me. It does excite me, you know? So I was an assistant, then I was assistant for the head of the department. And as an assistant, I was doing music video deals for clients. You know, no agent wanted to deal with them. They were too small. So they're like, why don't you deal with those? I was like, great, I'll take those and I'll run with them. It was fantastic. I signed my first client, who I still represent to this day. He actually is the guy I mentioned earlier. He had 2 music videos and a short film. This year, we inked a deal. He inked a deal with HBO exclusive to direct for the next year. So that's something that's built over the last 10 years from 2 music videos. You know, a lot has happened in that time. Introduced him to a director on one of the first commercials that we ever did for ESPN. They went on to do some notable films together. Now he's essentially a director, you know, so I don't know. How did I become an agent? In the middle of this story that I glossed over, Pattie was also an agent at this agency in the very early stages of her career. And there was a point where I was doing double duty for Marie Perry, Pattie Lofton, and I was doing deal memos. So we've got a little bit of a history, you know. I eventually outed her out the door and took her office, you know, and no, but I don't know. It's anybody who at a young age grows up thinking that they want to be an agent, I seriously think you have to question what's going on mentally with them, you know, because that's like a strange aspiration to have, you know. But for me, it was really all about the people and being able to be right in the middle of like the business and the creative, you know, avenue is like the perfect place. I love photography. I take photos when I can. It just it fulfills me on both sides, essentially, you know. So that's kind of how I got going, and I feel fortunate to do what I do. I really never thought it would be something that I'd even entertain, but it just felt right, so I went for it, and it's working out. So I'll stick with it.
I totally forgot about the first person that got fired. I'm so sorry. I cannot.
You must have met that person. I never did.
You what?
You must have met that person.
I did. I helped interview that person. I can't remember who it was, but I think they actually quit. I don't remember the situation. I think the phones overwhelmed them. But anyway, I started, let me see. I went to, when I was like 18, 19, I think I decided I want to go into the entertainment industry. And so I interned for this film editor because I thought post-production sounded really cool. And so he got me a job as Andy Garcia's editorial apprentice. And so I would go to Andy Garcia's house every single day, Monday through Friday. And I would drive their film to Paramount, you know, once they were done shooting. And so I just kind of did that for a little bit. And I loved it. I loved the energy. I loved the pace. I loved that it wasn't at a desk. What I didn't love was how long the hours were and how tired I was. So I ended up changing my major, which was kind of undecided, and decided to major in production. I went to Loyola Marymount. And so while I was in school, I just worked for free because I knew I could afford it and get away with it. And so I just built up a resume. And when I graduated, I had a couple interviews, and one was to work at 20th Century Fox in their licensing department, or to work at a production company called Tool of North America. And so I went and met at 20th Century Fox, and I hated it. And I just was like, this is not for me. I can't relate to any of these people there. And I went to meet at Tool of North America. And a couple days later, I was answering the phones at Tool. And I loved it. I loved the energy. I loved the people. But again, like really struggled with the hours, and especially as like a receptionist / PA, the pay, because I was on salary and I wasn't getting paid overtime. And so I got to know a ton of people. And one of the people I got to know was Hillary McQuaid. And she was looking for an assistant. And she was an agent at the Squares agency. And so I went and met and decided I kind of wanted a desk job. And I ended up getting the job, and I worked to be her assistant for probably like a year and a half. And at that point in time, they had 2 agents there. And one of them, probably like halfway through me being on Hillary's desk, decided that she didn't want to be she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. She didn't want to be an agent anymore. So Hillary took on all the clients, and it was just me and Hillary in the commercial department. And cut to like 4 months later, Hillary got pregnant. And so they were kind of in a bind because they had all these clients at like, you know, Bob Richardson, Harris Savitas, and Salzatino, and me and Hillary. And so they were kind of in panic mode. So she made the decision like, hey, we're gonna train you to take over when I have a baby. And so, you know, I'm like in my, you know, early 20s, I'm just like, very shocked, but was up for the challenge. And we brought over Marie Perry, who was working at a production company called Stifle, which had been purchased by Radical Media. So Marie was out of a job. So Marie came over probably like a month before Hillary was supposed to give birth. And 4 weeks into her training, Hillary goes to a doctor's appointment and calls me and Marie and says, hey, guess what? I'm not coming back. I'm having the baby today. And I'm like freaking out. So that's how I got promoted. That's how I became an agent. But like Holland, found it incredibly rewarding. I think the thing that's really interesting about being a below the line agent is you kind of get the best of both worlds, right? You get like the cool, fun title of being an agent and the respect that comes with an agent, but you're working with the people with like the best personalities and like the smallest egos compared to like the directors and
Some of them have small egos, you know.
You know what? Well, okay. I choose to work with people with like the smaller egos, I guess, but it's, you know, we get to go on set and then we get to leave set, and, you know, we get to be involved in the creative process. And I feel like I'm not there actually physically creating, but I'm a part of that process, and that's exciting. And to see all the treatments and to meet new directors and to meet new DPs and production designers and producers, I feel like Holland very lucky. And I had actually left the industry for personal reasons, and then came back 5 years ago, and just I feel even more lucky this time because everybody that we work with, especially in the commercials and music video realm, so cool. Everybody's so cool and just like open and fun and wanting to push the boundaries. And like even through this whole COVID situation, which is so tiring and exhausting, Holland and I actually had a conversation like 30 minutes before our thing, just talking about how tired we were. You know, we're the little niche within the industry that's like making things happen. You know, there's still so many productions on the narrative side that can't get things going, and here we are like cranking it out. So
yeah. And Mike's does off a 16-hour day.
Yeah, it's
Well,
great.
You're making it happen, Mike. You're out there. You're doing it.
I live for this shit.
Love that. Love that OT.
And then
Yeah.
you still show up to the Zoom.
Yeah, I got my steak right here waiting for me. But this Zoom is more important than eating, so I got it.
Aw. Well, if you want to ask any questions, jump into, but if you're tired, I'm happy to keep going down the list so far, but I didn't want to.
So go for it. Go down the list, and I'll tag team with you if need be.
Awesome.
But you're doing a great job.
And
Yeah.
poor Natalie's still in the car.
Yeah, I can talk though, so if you need, yeah, I'll be in here for a while, but
Okay.
yeah, y'all are doing great. This is so great.
I hope we have something to offer, you know. I was telling Natalie, I was like, I'm not a public speaker, you know. I enjoy the one-on-one relationships and really getting to know somebody and kind of figuring things out, you know, face to face. And this is something I'll tell you, I was terrified, you know. So, you know, hopefully you guys are getting something from it.
It's way easier though than standing like on a podium.
Yeah, that's true.
No, I mean every week, or we try to do it once a week, but I don't know, the Zooms, I've always terrified of Zooms too, but it's getting easier and easier. But I learn something every time. I'm learning things now. It's so nice of you guys to be here with us.
Of course.
Thanks for asking us, you know, I appreciate it.
Another question was, well, you kind of touched on this a little bit, Holland, but they were asking about transitioning into directing. And do you ever have DPs that want to transition into directing, and do you help them with that move? Or is it easier for them to get repped if they've already been repped as a DP?
Do you want to go, Pattie?
No, you go. You're the one that.
I was just going to say, like, it's a very delicate situation. And, you know, so essentially, if you want to be a director, you really need to know that that's the lane you want to choose, because when you're a cinematographer and you start kind of making that transition into directing as well, you can find yourself at a certain level being in direct competition with the people that would like to employ you, the people that have employed you, the production companies that bring you onto their sets as a cinematographer are introducing you to the agency side of it, that the agency could then come back and go, oh, Mike's the director DP? That guy's pretty incredible. We don't need X company. Why don't we just go straight to Mike and do it with him on the next time? So it becomes dangerous, it can become competitive, and it can ultimately stifle your career as a cinematographer. You know, that being said, if you want to direct things on a more kind of regional, small market basis where you're not going to have direct competition with the people who you'd like to be working with and that you are working with, and you're not taking food off the table from your contemporaries, that's totally workable. You know, there's ways to do it. But I personally have shied away from signing cinematographers that ultimately want to be directors for that reason, because it makes my job incredibly hard to go out and sell somebody that on the other side, they're seeing that that person is directing and they're kind of like, I don't know, we want to support that, you know, because we want to support our directors. So that being said, you know, you work with people 10, 15 years, their careers grow to a different place. They start out shooting something for HBO, you know, a couple episodes, you know, throughout a couple of years. Next thing you know, HBO comes back and offers, you know, an episode to direct. Of course, we help facilitate that. You know, if that's what the client ultimately wants to do at that point, and that's where their career is, and that's where the next step of growth for them is at that time, then we're in 100% to support that and make that happen and turn that person into a director. You know, they can do that with us. You know, some people choose to have outside representation as directors, and that's fine as well, you know. But we're here really ultimately to listen and facilitate the needs of our clients and find the avenues to get there. So we have to adapt, you know, along the way.
I agree with that. You have to be fluid. It is a slippery slope though. And I agree with Holland, like someone's talking about directing, there's a very serious conversation. Like you can direct and we can help support you through that, but just know that all these other directors that you've been working with, you should kiss them goodbye, because you're going to go compete in that commercial market. It's, you know, the jig is up.
Yeah.
You're gonna be a DP, you're not going to, or a director, you're not going to be a DP anymore. That's what it's going to look like in their eyes. But I think that there is a place for it. I feel like on the narrative side, specifically within the realm of television, I do feel like it's a lot easier for DPs to get away with directing, but in that niche, right? So the only way that I see it happening successfully within our world is when you have someone like a Wally Pfister who wants to direct. You know, he can get away with it, you know, but he's the exception, he's not the rule. So
Right.
and it really, you know, until you get to that level, or if you decide, you know, I have a DP that I think ultimately is a director, and we've had the, you know, the conversation, This person's still very young in their career, but to me, when I talk to them, they talk like a director. They don't talk like a DP. And, so I'm trying to help nurture that person while also making sure that they have opportunities to go either direction. And that person still is very young. So they do have that option to kind of flirt on both sides. But at some point, ultimately, they will need to make a choice. Like, I want to direct or I want to be a DP.
Right. With like this person being very young, another question is from Emanuela. How come people get repped at different levels? Like, how come there's some young DPs with very little work that get signed right away at a decent agency versus someone who does a lot more work and they just can't get signed?
It's because the work speaks to the agent and they really feel they have enough to work with to go out there and sell it to the people that they need to.
Yeah,
I think it's just that simple, to be honest. Yeah. And the person with a deep breadth of work, number one thing, do not call an agent and say, hey, I've done 200 ads over the last 5 years. Nobody cares about that, and do not use like volume as a selling point, whatever you do. That's just like one word of advice, let the work speak for itself. Construct your reel with as little work as possible that can elicit the strongest emotional response, visual response. Less is more is the bottom line. I think it's that simple. And, agents sign the people that speak to them, not everybody. Some people just sign everybody in town and let the chips lie where they may. And whatever happens, happens. I can't do that. I don't have the time for that. And I don't have the interest in that. But that's my thought. What do you think, Pattie?
I think that the good agents that really want to curate careers don't do that. That's just my personal opinion, because it is a very personal choice. Like for two people to decide, like, hey, we want to work together towards a common goal. Holland's absolutely right. It is about personal preference. Timing is a part of it. Like Christina said, when she first reached out to me, no dice. But we talked and her work developed and we talked and I saw enough there and I knew, but I just also knew that I wasn't going to be able to open enough doors for her. And I didn't think it was going to be to our benefit to sign at that time. And now she's like a blossoming flower. But I think it really, really depends on what the agent's looking for. Marie, who's the other agent that I work with at Gersh, she's looking for something totally different than what I'm looking for right now. So, as I'm getting these submissions, I send her the ones that aren't going to fulfill what I am looking for right now, and vice versa. It really is just like, okay, I have, I'm good here, but I could really use like, a tabletop DP, for example. That's a bad example, but just it depends on what it's circumstantial, I guess, is really the way to say it.
I mean, ultimately, like, I think it's great that you and Pattie have different tastes, because for an agency, it's important to be rounded. And at Murtha Scoris, I think we're extremely well-rounded. We have an incredible television department. We have the highest echelon of ASC master cinematographers. We have the young people coming up that are going to be the future. I'm going to be doing this for a long time. So when I sign people, especially earlier on in their career, I look at who do I see true potential that over the next 10, 15, 20 years, as the guards change internally, who can come with me, or who can I take, or who together will be the future that the younger agent at that time is going to come in and look up to what we've done with your career, So I think being where was I getting to? I think being, well-rounded, it's great that you guys you have to have us. We're in a service position. We service our clients, we service producers, we service whoever calls us. That's my job, to try and solve problems, help people. You mentioned tabletop cinematographers. Not something that particularly interests me. Do I get calls, and do I want to be able to be the person that can make a recommendation to help that producer out? Yes, of course. Do I have a lot of tabletop people? No. Am I out there looking for them? No. Should I? Probably, but that's just because the more I can help a producer at any level, at any project that he or she comes to me with, they're going to remember that and they're going to come back. If I don't have the right person, Or even if I have the right person and they're not available and I've kind of exhausted the resources internally in our roster, and I know from the get-go when I look at a treatment, this person is the best person for the job and I don't represent them. First of all, I don't like that, but when I know I've exhausted internally, I'll tell the producer, you know who you need to call. Here's their number. They're the right person for the job. Because that producer is going to remember that I'm not just looking out for myself. I'm looking out for the best interests of the project and the production. That's going to pay off tenfold over the years, you know? So I try to service no matter what. I'm just here to help people and, you know, be genuine and authentic. And, you know, ultimately, hopefully that comes back around to me, and it usually does.
Yeah. The other part of this question was talking about being well-rounded. What do you think agencies are doing right now to make sure they represent more more female DPs and like people of color and Black DPs? Do you think that is something that's trending right now and that the agencies are looking for and are trying to make sure they have a well-rounded roster?
Gersh has made a pledge as an agency, and our department specifically, but as an agency, to sign more BIPOC clientele. And in fact, they've gone so far as to implement, the whole company is going through training. So every month we have 1 or 2 meetings, mandatory meetings, to make sure that the culture is within the agency is cultivated, one, to be more open to that, but to ensure that that change is going to happen. So they've committed 100% to, like, you cannot miss these meetings. And they hired a therapist. Initially he spoke to the whole agency, and now they're doing these like smaller secular meetings where we have open discussion about you know, racism, inequality, have open forums to talk about all these different things that come up within an agency of that size. And then more specifically to myself and Marie, absolutely. I think for me personally, because I'm, you know, diverse and a female, you know, I remember what it was like as an assistant and as a young agent to mainly speak to white men, older white men, and to do these negotiations, and they were super uncomfortable. And there was a point in time as a young agent when I really did not enjoy my job because I felt talked down to on a regular basis, and I didn't feel respected. And so now that we're in a different time, it feels good. And I was really fortunate to be at places where they supported me and they believed in me. And had I not had that, I don't know that I would be where I am today. So for me personally, it's a personal investment to make sure that I provide those opportunities for people who have talent, but who are also, you know, like me. And so I don't know that I'm necessarily going out to seek people because I feel like it's automatically happening. I know that I'm one of the few diverse agents in below the line. I know there aren't that many of us. And so I think that a lot of diverse people do naturally like feel some sort of comfort talking to me. But I think it's just, I obviously look at that and want to be supportive and want to help people grow, you know, and obviously take into account the talent and their personality. But I think, you know, sometimes it is hard to, initially it was like really hard to find, but now I feel like there's so many opportunities and people, I find these people through word of mouth. I find them from other clients. I find them from producers. I find them from Instagram. To me now, it's a lot easier to find those types of people. And yeah, right now I am committed to signing more diverse people because I think that there has been a lack of opportunity, and I love helping to build people's reels, and I love helping to build their careers. And to me, it would be so exciting to see, you know, I actually have a couple of really diverse clients. One of them, his name is Xiaolong Lu, and we call him X. And you know, he came to us without any representation, and his work has really skyrocketed, and he's had plenty of opportunity. He's had more opportunity, I think, because of the whole diverse movement. But it's exciting to see that because you know, when you talk to him, the story that I heard from him, which I can totally relate to, is that when he was younger, he grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood, which is how I grew up. And he just wanted to be white, and I wanted to just be white. And so he and I connect on that level. And now it's like, you know, he feels like he has something that he can connect to with his, you know, Caucasian counterparts. And I feel that same way. And for him to feel equal with those people and to see how much joy that brings him, that's what you know, you just want more of that.
That's
I
awesome.
think you did a great job, Patty, with that question. We've signed a pledge. It's probably the similar pledge with a foundation called Change the Lens that a lot of production companies, agencies have done. And essentially, I think, you know, that came about and was something that got everybody together to shine a spotlight on a deficiency, you know, in terms of opportunity that was being given and being created by those that are in power in our industry, by everybody in our industry, you know. So that organization came about. All of us have agreed to a certain percentage to work towards to further diversify our rosters. And I think that's important. But I think what's really important is just having these type of conversations with clients, with producers, with PAs. When I'm looking for an assistant down the line, I'm going to be sure that I can find somebody that perhaps doesn't have a resume with a lot of depth, but that on a person-to-person level, I can relate with and that I can see potential in, and I'd like to take with and work with and offer my day-to-day ongoings with them and have them be a part of it so that they can have a lens to perhaps an area of the industry that they wouldn't be able to without my help or somebody that's in my position. You know, maybe they want to be an agent, maybe they don't, you know, but working inside of an agency, I think is a great place to work because you get to be right in the middle of so many conversations and you can pick kind of which lane you want to go into. So I think I think the responsibility falls on everybody, on us as agents, of course, but I feel like one thing that people have to be at a certain level where we as agents can go out there and help drive that career forward. So, and in order for people to kind of develop to a certain level for that to happen, things have to happen before we're involved at certain points. You know, they need to be given opportunities in the camera department, you know, and to build a reel, to build a little something that we as agents can go and then further get behind and kind of back to the next level. I mean, how we can play a role in that situation is by having conversations with clients, you know. In terms of signing talent that's out there, I think that I've had clients bring people into my awareness that they've worked with at different levels throughout their career. You know, maybe as a costume designer, somebody was assisting them for years and they just see that that person's ready to break to the next level. Mm-hmm. Am I willing to get behind and back that person and help make that happen? Yes. I need the client in that instant to also help make that happen. You know, not the client that I signed, the client that I had the conversation with that introduced me to this person, say, hey, you know this person on a, you know, one-on-one basis, you've got a relationship over the years that you've developed. When you're not available, will you help back me talking to a producer to say, you know what, this person is the right person in absence of myself, of yourself. So I think it's a team effort. You know, I think that ultimately I know the work still needs to speak to me because I can't get on the phone and sell something I don't believe in. So what I need to do is keep my eyes open, keep my ears open, and not only I need to get people on my radar that I can track and that I can have discussions with, and that when a job comes across my desk that might not be right for any of my clients, but might be a great opportunity for somebody else to go out there and get to work with people that they hadn't worked with, or even just build their reel. You know, it might not be the best spot in the world, but you got to start somewhere. You know, not every job that comes across our desk is right for anybody in the agency. Sometimes it's just not. Yeah. It's just not kind of at the level that we're looking for our current clients, but it is at a level where it's important for somebody to do that so they can keep building and developing. And I don't know, I hope I answer the question. And
yeah, no, I think you definitely did.
On all the is to hire crew and to encourage your crew to hire PAs that
Yeah,
are,
it's definitely.
that's where the opportunity really lies.
I mean, and the thing is, like, for the creative output and like the collective, like the more people you have together working on a project with a variety of backgrounds and experiences throughout their life, the more that can be contributed to the conversation to ultimately make a project incredible. You know, you have a bunch of like, let's just say a bunch of white guys sitting around a table talking about a project with similar experiences. That caps off very early. You know, you have people from all different backgrounds, ages, generations, you know, cultural, you know, upbringings. There's so many more conversations that can be had in that, at that table, that can just kind of like blow open a creative concept that you all sat there initially with. So ultimately, it's in the best interest of the work and everybody, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you guys do bring on a new DP, what is the, like, how does the conversation go in the beginning when they kind of, do you ask where they want to go with their career, or how does that usually happen? I mean, I know Pattie sends out a questionnaire for New Year's every year that kind of starts that conversation each time. So that's something I've really enjoyed, but yeah.
Hey, maybe I should start doing that, you know. Mike, what do you say? Yeah. Yeah.
I think that for me, you know, that's part of that conversation, I think, happens during the whole, I guess, interview process, which for me is a longer time, I think, than most. Because I want to know, I want to ask who are directors that they want to be working with, and who do they think they should be working with, and whose careers do they aspire to have. And I ask those questions because I want to know, where do they want to go? Can I help them get there? And are they realistic? You know, because if you have someone who's coming in, it's like, oh yeah, I want to be competing, you know, with Maddie Lebatique or something like that. It's like, you can't yet. I mean, but right now you can't. And, you know, it gives me a good gauge as to where that person is. And really, ultimately, if I can help them. So those are the sorts of questions I ask. I also, you know, ask, like, who is your dream director? What types of projects excite you? You know, are you looking more for money, or are you looking for the creative? Because sometimes there are times when clients are like, hey, things are a little tight. I need to to take a money job, and that's fine. You know, like, we have those conversations, but I really like the initial conversations are really just more, what's your long-term goal? What's your wish list? And who are you currently working with? Because sometimes, you know, who they're currently working with, the directors that the DPs are aligned with, are completely off the path of where they're telling me that they want to go. And then that helps me change course. I had a DP that I signed just over 2 years ago now, and his work and his website has completely evolved. And that was a choice that we had made when he decided to sign with me, because his work was very glossy and commercial, but he really wanted to take it to a more creative place. And so what we had discussed was, okay, if you really want to take it to a more creative place, then that means that you're gonna have to pass on all these money jobs that you're taking, because yeah, those jobs are great, but those aren't the creative jobs that you're telling me that you want to be doing. So we kind of, you know, had multiple conversations of like, okay, well, I would be willing to do this, but I'm not willing to do that. Or I would definitely risk everything for this type of project because X, Y, and Z. And, you know, and then maybe I really need to kind of start off with a pad. So we should book, you know, a job that makes this much money. This should be our goal. And then I could really take just only creative jobs. So those are the things that we kind of talk about out the gate. And sometimes that conversation comes a little bit later, because there have been plenty of times I book someone and then all of a sudden they're booked like nonstop, and you don't have time to have the conversation just flows. So.
I mean, for me, when I meet people, typically I'm trying to sit there and get to know the person and get a sense of who they are kind of inside, and, you know, their work, I can kind of get a sense of who they are as a creative individual, but I really want to know, like, what they're about, what they're looking to do, kind of like, yeah, like, how they got to where they are and what ultimately kind of led them to becoming a cinematographer, like the story behind it, the kind of like, you know, the history just in their life that led them to the point of wanting to pick up a camera, and that ultimately being to what they want to do with their life and their career. I mean, I'll say being a cinematographer and being an agent as well, we're very fortunate because we're all working, you know, and sometimes, like Pattie said, sometimes you do have to take a job because of the money, or you want to because you have a friend and it's the middle of COVID and everybody's wondering if the economy is going to shut down forever and we have to pay bills, you know. But I think that ultimately, when I get a sense of who somebody is as a person, I know that our relationship is going to evolve over time, and I know that our goals are going to change. So I'm not the type of agent who's going to say, this is what we're doing in year one, this is what we're doing in 5 years. There are a lot of agencies that go out and do that. There are a lot of people that love that. I'll do that. I can blow smoke, you know, as much as the next guy, you know, but what I want to do is work with somebody and kind of deliver on a month-to-month basis and kind of look where we're at and kind of assess. And as we're booking projects, have that conversation as to, why are we booking this project right now? Let's call it what it is. We're booking it because we don't have 3 other options. It's a little bit slow. We like the producer, we like the director. Creative, maybe not so good. Or we're booking it because this is an incredible treatment for a music video with a director that we've wanted to work with for years. There's not a lot of resources there, but let's go in and make sure that you have the resources to get the equipment and the crew you need to do an incredible job with this. Let's book it. So for me, it's more of an ongoing conversation that evolves over time, as opposed to being so concerned with, like, I said I was going to do this in 1 year and it hasn't happened. Are you disappointed with me? You know, I don't set up those type of expectations. A lot of people buy into that. A lot of people need that for their own kind of like mental sense of security and drive and stability with knowing where their career is going. None of us know where anything's going on any given day. We can only do the best that we can. So I just have to kind of assess things and look at it. And one thing I do know that, and I'm very kind of aware of, like, if I'm working with a client and they've kind of said yes to a few projects that I know aren't kind of really going in the direction that we've discussed, for my own sense of self-preservation, I'm going to try to talk them out of the next project they do that. Because I know in the future, that's going to come back around and cause them to question, wait a second, what are we doing? Why did I just do those 4 jobs for Best Buy or some regional supermarket or something? I don't want to have that conversation. So I'm going to steer my client away from doing that, you know. We're talking in an interesting time. It's COVID. I've had this conversation with a lot of clients, you know. There's not a lot of interesting board flow out there. People are not making as much money as they typically do, you know, in a normal year. We're having to kind of open up a little bit and say yes to a few projects that in other times, in a heartbeat, I would say, forget it. We're passing on that. I'm going to find you something else. But as part of what we talked about earlier, of what to expect from an agent-client relationship, that's my job to tell you what the market looks like and say, you know what, it's okay right now. It's okay to take a job and understand that you're working. Everybody in the world works. We work in a creative medium and are fortunate that we don't have to look at it like work most of the time. When you take a job that's not exactly what you want to be doing, don't beat yourself up for it. Just realize you're working like everybody else in the world. It's okay sometimes, you know, and try not to be so hard. I think psychologically, like from my side, from all of our sides, we work in a tough industry. We have to remember not to be so hard on ourselves. We have to remember that in this day and age with social media, Instagram, the appearance of everybody else out there other than ourselves doing the best visual work on every project that they're on, it's not a reality, you know? So to be able to create a distance, a healthy distance and a healthy relationship with social media and Instagram, and know that it's a tool, it's your tool. It's not something that's out there that you should be judging your career and making assessments on whether you're doing well or not against. Super important, you know? Kind of went off topic a little bit there, but it's just something that I think about all the time.
No, I think that's that, and it really leads into the next question, because something I kind of expected signing with an agency is that they would really push you to go and make as much money as you possibly can, and that hasn't been my experience at all. And someone was wondering, when you're, let me find the exact question. But when you go about choosing projects, what meets the criteria for your client, and what's your opinion on them working on a smaller project that they're more passionate about versus like a money job?
I mean, it's a decision we've made together. So there's no situation where a client's just going out and doing a job and I'm like, I don't know if they should be doing that. Find yourself in that situation, you need to reassess the agent that you're working with and give me a call, because that decision is one that we've made together. We've talked through every aspect and we know exactly why you're in the middle of that job, But I mean, the thing about making money, like we're in a great industry. There's lots of money to be made in commercial advertising. Music videos, not so much, but they're great. And they kind of fulfill like a different end of the spectrum that we don't always get to be a part of in the middle of commercials. So I'll tell you this, like at every stage in your career, especially at the very beginning, if you are making decisions and following your heart and working with the people and as much as possible on the jobs that speak to you and allow you to kind of bring your skill set to the table, don't even think about the money. I mean, you do that and you stick to that and just push the money aside as much as possible. You're going to make more money than you can even imagine over the course of your career. Those little building blocks early on, and money is not a building block. It's a pad for stability that at sometimes, you want to take a job and make a lot of money just so you can say yes to those 5 other projects that aren't going to pay well. And that's part of a strategy as well. And you have to take that into play. But if you make the right decisions and don't think about the finances early on in your career, you're going to make more money than ever. Fortunately, I work at an agency where I don't have a lot of pressure from the top because we're a smaller type of place and they're not looking at us as saying, hey, you're not generating this, you're not generating that, have the freedom to pass on projects. And they know that ultimately we're all going to make more money anyways in 5 to 7 years, however it may be, if we pass on these particular projects now. I like money. I'm not going to lie. I can look back on a year and look at the number of projects I've passed on, and I would like to kick myself sometimes because, it's a fair amount of money can be there. But ultimately, I know it's the right thing to do. I always do what the right thing to do in a situation. I've never told a client to take a project that I didn't feel was the right thing to do for one reason or the other. The reason's either going to be because there's a producer involved that we like the treatment. Sometimes it's because of the money, but what else? There's got to be a reason to take a job, essentially, and it's going to be one of those.
Yeah, working with a new director.
Yeah. It's the same for us. For me, it's the first thing that usually the number one thing that I look at with a client is, what does the creative look like? And that's no matter the other stuff usually doesn't come into play that's not completely true. The creative is the most important thing. And if the creative is good, then we look at, is the director capable of executing what the creative is how the creative is lined out. So those are the 2 things that we look at when I'm working with a client. And we also look at the producer, and the money is usually the last thing. Obviously, if it's a lower budget job, we want to make sure that they're going to have good crew rates and the money for gear. But other than that, that's really what dictates it. And my conversations with the clients are really, what excites you about this project? Do you want to do this project? If something's really exciting to a client, like Holland said, they're not really going to care about the money. And what happens when you focus 100% on just like the creative in this project that gets you super excited, your excitement's going to show in the project. And that's when the magic happens. And so what Holland's referring to when, you're going to make more money, you're going to make so much money over the course of your career. The reason why he's saying that is because when your passion comes through a project like that, other people can feel that. That's what makes people feel when they watch your work. And so if someone's feeling when they watch your work, then a director that you're really excited or that you want to work with is going to feel something when he or she sees a certain piece, and then that's going to open a new door. And then someone else is going to see that excitement on this new project. And it just kind of escalates and snowballs. And what happens is as you start to level up and progress throughout your career, your money, the day rate automatically increases because you're working with higher level directors and producers. So the money really, I mean, like, obviously you have to be able to pay your bills, but if you need to take a money job so you can pay your bills, take a money job so you can pay your bills, and then focus on the creative and let that be your guide. And, you know, the way that it's been working is that we do all these creative jobs, and then we'll take a money job, and then the money job kind of floats them, and then the creative jobs are starting to pay a little bit better, you know? So it'll happen if you just have faith and you trust yourself and you go with your gut. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah. I think
you do ultimately intersect, like
Yeah.
I said, you know, and then you're doing well.
Yeah. I tried to get through all the questions. I know we should probably wrap it up soon.
Yeah, there's one more.
Oh yeah, thank you.
I think we skipped over that's really relevant to me, actually, with every agent I reached out to. The question is, do agents find it off-putting when DPs reach out to them? And if not, will they still check in on us if we're still not there yet with our work? Because there's a stigma that when you're ready, an agent will reach out to you, which no agent has ever reached out to me. I've done a lot of the reaching myself. Do you guys want to like speak on that?
Yeah, I don't. Thanks. I don't think that. I don't mind when someone reaches out to me. And in fact, there was a point in time when I had a lot of submissions and I wasn't able to respond to everybody. I actually, that doesn't bother me at all. I feel like that's part of you being a DP is reaching out. And sometimes there's going to be, sometimes there's going to be, I've had people who have reached out over and over and over and over again after I've already told them that I can't sign them. That is tough because it's like after you've already had the conversation, like, hey, I either don't have a spot for you, or, you know, I don't think that your work fits on my roster, or, you know, give me 6 months or whatever. When they continue to reach out and reach out and reach out, that gets a little bit tough. But no, I don't think that there's a stigma with anybody reaching out to a client or an agent at all. And I think in fact, that's like, you know, especially young DPs, I think that you should be doing that when the time is right. And that's the tricky part, right? There's a little bit of a gray area. In terms of checking back in, that depends. I mean, like if I feel like I have a spot for someone that I've spoken to, I'll circle back with that person. And sometimes like, I imagine Holland's in the same boat. We got a lot of submissions. And so you forget sometimes and can't always follow back up. If I've done a face-to-face meeting with someone, I try to remember to follow back up with them with some sort of anything when I can. Right now during COVID, it's pretty tough because, you know, everybody's running, you know, all 6 cylinders with no rest or reprieve in sight, it seems like. So I don't think I think if someone reaches out and they don't get a response, don't take it personally. You know, it's like dating. I imagine online dating, you know, you're reaching out to a bunch of different people and everybody doesn't respond, right? There's my dating analogy again. But so it's not personal. And I don't think it should deter you from reaching out to that particular agent again. And so, you know, we also get hundreds of emails a day. So sometimes you just miss it. If you've reached out to someone, they don't respond, I think that's okay to nudge them again. But if you've had a conversation where they're saying now the time isn't right, don't reach out to them in a month, reach out to them in 6 months to 12 months would be my advice.
Just going to say, Pattie, I've never missed an email in my life. So just kidding.
I must have emails in you.
I've ignored plenty of emails. Don't get me wrong, but that's like a different thing, you know? Yeah. No, DPs should definitely be reaching out. I think one thing to be very aware of, and I don't think that people often recognize the extent to what they're asking, you know, a cinematographer reaching out, and I touched upon this earlier on, to go through somebody's work and give like an honest, thorough, constructed feedback on a cinematographer that you don't represent, it'll take me a half an hour to go through that, you know? And the only reason I mention that, to be aware of what the ask is, because people will email with such a cavalier type of thing and then follow up, which is fantastic. But sometimes people get upset if you haven't taken that half an hour out of your life to give them feedback on their reel. And the thing is, I have to look at my time and my time management and see what I can do with that half an hour. Can I go out and get Natalie and Mike an introduction to a producer, a director that we've been discussing with that time? That's an option, you know. I need to work for my clients and the people that I've signed on to allot my time to and to allot my energy to, first and foremost. I'll file emails from cinematographers that are just kind of reaching out for a little bit of feedback into a folder for when I have time. And through COVID, there's been time. I've gotten back to some people because I've been like, you know what, especially like 4 or 5 months ago, it was pretty slow. I was like, now's the time. Let me look through this work. It's there. Let me give people some feedback. Maybe I can help them. Maybe when I've seen the work, something will come along down the line that I feel they might be fitting for, and I can refer work to them. I signed a cinematographer through COVID that, you know, I was getting a lot of requests for projects that were being broken up all throughout the US, shooting in different states. They need somebody in Nashville, they need somebody there. I don't have anybody. I put messages on Instagram. Hey, does anybody know a great cinematographer, let's say in Nashville, you know? I'm getting hit up left, right, and center about Nick Allen, you know? And Nick, everybody is glowing about this guy, you know, the best, most positive reviews, you know? So I started getting those requests and I started saying, hey, you know, what, you should give Nick a call. I'm hearing nothing but great things about him. You know, I give Nick a call. Hey, you know, you might get a call from so-and-so. And eventually it's kind of got to a point where I was like, I think we should be working together, you know? And I picked up the phone and called him and had a discussion, and ultimately that worked out really well. I think that cinematographers should be reaching out to agents. On any given day, you may get a response, you may not. Don't take it personally from anybody, but reach out, follow up. If you have a little bit of a dialogue with somebody and you've gone out and shot a music video, a short film, or something of substantial quality and attachment for yourself, share that with that person, because you want to build the relationship over time. They may not be ready yet. It sounds like you, Pattie, and Christina had a little bit of this experience. The time came where it was right. So definitely stay in touch with people, reach out, and be respectful of the agent's time as well. And just not respectful, but understanding, you know, of what the ask is. And honestly, I think the best thing to do, what would really help me out when people reach out to me, give me a little bit more direction than, hey, can you check out my website and give me some feedback? Tell me 2 projects to look at that, like, give me something, feed me a little bit that I can bite onto and help you with. Don't put it on me to go through and do all of the work to figure out what you want me to look at. That would be fantastic. And I guarantee all of us as agents would appreciate that. And your response rate's going to go up. Give us 1 project to look at to give you feedback. You might hear from that agent, you know. My thoughts.
I go through all their websites, Holland. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I'm going to start sending them all to you and you can give me the cliff notes. I'm just joking.
Please do.
Not happening.
I think that's helpful feedback for sure. I always wonder, I never knew what to say when reaching out.
I was just going to say, like, there's a lot of people in this room. Does anybody else just have something on their mind that they wanted to ask before we wrap this up? Is there anything we touched upon that you wanted us to expand upon? You know?
Anybody?
Type it in the chat.
I don't know. You guys are so thorough. No one's saying anything.
I mean, we don't want.
Oh,
there we go.
here we got one.
Make a difference.
Confidence make a difference. I think when I'm meeting with an individual to sign, I'm definitely kind of assessing if they know who they are as a person, and if I feel confident that when I get them onto a set, they're going to be able to perform at a level and kind of stand out and have a strong enough voice to to not command, but to have a presence on set that people are going to want to come back for. So I think confidence is a huge part of it, for sure, because you can take two cinematographers with an identical level of talent, and when you look at the reels, they're phenomenal. But as an agent on my side, over time, as I see the relationships that have been opened up, and I see the doors that kind of come back around time and time again, you can see where the personality and the person being who they are beyond the work really helps us, So yeah, I mean, I think you do have to be confident in what you do and be confident in what you don't know as well, be able to go out there and learn. And, if you're in a situation you haven't encountered, call another cinematographer, talk to your agent about, hey, you know what, I haven't really done this before. Do you have any advice? Oh yeah, I can hook you up with so-and-so, and just try to kind of work the connections and develop. All of us are encountering situations that we haven't been in, on a day-to-day basis sometimes. And ultimately we just need to go forth into them and learn what we can, so that the next time we encounter them, we know what we're doing, so yeah.
I agree with Holland. We have a couple of clients that are up for a project that is, at Gersh, they do like packaging and stuff, and it usually doesn't involve DPs, but in this specific case it does, where there's a DP who's directing a long form project, and they decided to focus internally on our up and coming talent roster. And they've narrowed it down to 2 DPs. And what was said to us, they haven't made the decision yet, which they're going to decide this weekend. They were supposed to decide today. And they said, the email categorically said, right now it's between DPA and DPB. And the biggest difference is DPA feels like he's going to be more confident on set. DPB doesn't light as dark as DPA. And so that is their conflict. And so I think that they're going to end up going with DPA, because you can tell that they're going to want someone that they want to just put all their trust into. And it's because he's showing up with so much confidence, even though he hasn't done anything like this before, it's one less thing for them to have to worry about. So if you're feeling insecure about something with regards to your work, try to tackle whatever fear it is that's holding you up, because yeah, sometimes shit gets scary, and sometimes you're in situations where you're like, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing, but have enough faith within yourself that you know what you're doing. And if you have questions, there's people there to help you, to kind of guide you through. At the end of the day, nobody's going to die, hopefully, and you're going to come through unscathed, or maybe with a scar, but as a stronger DP with some lesson learned. So,
I mean, and I'll be honest, Pattie, I had to do this with this conversation because, like I said earlier, I haven't really spoken to a forum of people before, and I was a little bit nervous, and
crushed it.
You just have to kind of jump in and do it, and then hopefully next time it goes better.
It went very well.
You're like, so
you're great.
So it seems like you were great. I thought you did so good.
Oh, thank you. That's all I wanted to hear, really,
And so handsome.
Yeah. It's this light. I've got like a little soft gray, gel, and then I've got something else in front of it. I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. That's up to you guys.
Yeah. You take different considerations when signing DPs who are more focused in the narrative world versus commercial music video world. I don't, because the way that we're working right now at Gersh is that we have to bring on DPs that fulfill both categories. So I have to have a feature agent that's willing to sign a DP with me. Otherwise, if they don't have something to offer in both, we're not going to sign them. And the reason for that is because we don't want to dilute the roster, and we don't want the roster to get too big. So right now they have to have at least something that the agent can work with. Now, they don't have to have, tons of narrative work and tons of commercial music video work. They just have to have you know, a couple short films and some work that we can sell them with, or really incredible narrative and, you know, very few short form projects. But I think really at the end of the day, what I think all you guys want to know is, what is it that makes an agent want to bring on a DP? And it really is going to be the quality of the work, what that work makes us feel like. You know, I think there's a huge difference between a DP that just takes a job for the money and makes it look pretty versus a DP who's really emotionally invested in the project. I think that that's the biggest difference for me, and that's what I look for when I sign someone. And then also the second thing is, like, are they likable and are they production friendly? And if, you know, they're coming into conflict, are they going to have good conflict resolution? I think that's what you guys are asking for. If someone really believes in you, it doesn't matter what you have. You know, you could have like a commercial about Kermit the Frog, but if like it really blows someone away, they're going to sign you. You know, that's really what it comes down to.
And we're also here, just so you know, like, sometimes as a therapist, you know, sometimes difficult things come up and you just are in the middle of a situation. I need my clients to come to me, to vent to me, so that that energy doesn't show up on set and inhibit the relationship down the line. Come to me, complain, tell me who's a fucking asshole, whatever you have to do it to me. Do not do it on set. You know, like, I'm here to listen, to kind of work through, just to be a sounding board sometimes. You know, you just need to get something off your chest. You're not even looking to hear anything from me sometimes when my clients call. They're just totally like in their car, losing their shit. And I just have to be like, I have some perspective for you. You know, let's look at it this way. Let's get through it. Ultimately, what you're saying, I understand, is how you're feeling right now. What we want to do with your career and how you're feeling right now in this particular job, that's a blip on the radar. Let's stay focused on the long term. Let's get through this as clean as possible. And then let's fucking leave it behind us, you know, if it's a really bad situation. But do not go in there and make it a worse situation. Come to me, you know?
Holland's a great therapist. I can attest
It's
to
all
that.
the years I've had in the chairs myself, you know.
Sure, you're welcome, Matt.
I mean, that was great. I mean, if anybody has anything else, I'm happy to continue talking, but you know, on the same note,
Just
it's
like leaned into it. You're like a natural.
Yeah, you see, it's like, I knew this would happen. You just, once you get started talking, you get rolling.
Yeah.
Be on the TED Talk stage next week.
Yeah.
TED Talks in Holland.
this was great. How's this program going anyways? Does everybody feel like, you know, you're getting a lot out of it? It's been super helpful, and, you know.
Yeah. From my personal experience seeing everyone's work on here and like who's on this program, I am so amazed at all the talent that is like within this. So, I mean, within the next 1-2 years, even sooner, I mean, these guys are the up and coming like future of DPs, and I'm excited to battle it out on these jobs with them. They're gonna take my jobs.
You guys
Yeah.
have such great mentors. They're all like, these men and women are so unbelievably talented, and their time is so precious. And so it's such a huge opportunity for you guys, because I don't think that if any of you guys had this sort of opportunity to have someone kind of like guide your hand, it just seems so much more open these days, you know, that there's like an open dialogue, that there's so much more authenticity and the ability to have these vulnerable conversations like, hey, I feel this way about a certain situation. You guys are really lucky to be working with these people.
Yeah,
really
but I learn a lot from other mentors and mentees, and people ask questions I never thought to ask. So I've never been in a community of other DPs that just want to talk and be open about what they do. So it's super nice on all fronts.
That's exciting. That's
And,
really,
you know, I was just going to say, I'm going to put my email address in the chat for you guys. Like I said, I'm not always available. I do my best to get back to people as possible. If I can be of any help along the way, I'm happy to get on the phone, you know, and again, just if I don't get back to you right away, no disrespect, I will get back to you, especially, and just mention that you're part of this group and this talk that we did, just so I have an extra little footnote reminder of what I'd like to get back to. That would be great, you know. Yeah.
I'm going to do the same.
Who's not an iPhone, by the way? They're very nice in the chat, and I'm just curious who it is.
Show your face, not an iPhone.
Well, thanks for your time,
Remain
guys.
anonymous. Yeah, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, thank y'all.
My pleasure. Yeah.
Email
Thank
me.
you for asking.
Also the same note about letting me know that you were in this, and happy to help with websites. Ask Christina. I will annihilate it, but will help you. So not, but will help you. So happy Friday, everybody. I hope everybody stays safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have a good Thanksgiving. I'll talk to some of you very soon.
Yeah.
Thank y'all so much. It was really inspiring.
Thanks, guys.
Welcome home, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah, welcome back.
Thank you. I gotta go check out these film scans. I just heard they came back, so.
Nice. All right. Cool.
All right,
Later,
you
guys.
Bye.
Everyone.
Peace.
Bye.
Bye.